Welcome back, everyone. It's day 40. What a great round number. I'm Henry, and you're watching my channel, Henry's Millions. Today, we're going to be talking about gratitude. And maybe in future videos as well. And not the good things about it, the dangers of gratitude. What are the problems that we have in gratitude? But before we can get to that, there's some issues we have to deal with, contend with. Today, if you were to search on YouTube for gratitude, you would find a few YouTube creators with videos that have a stranglehold on the search, just like many other searches. The YouTube algorithm prioritizes them regardless of the quality or veracity of their content or the intentions, truthfulness or honesty that they have. Unfortunately, one of those videos for gratitude is problematic. I found it to be problematic. We have to address that. Nothing that I have against the speaker, the person himself, but there were some issues that I have with the message in the video, and I want to address them today. So you are probably familiar with Andrew Huberman and his video called Gratitude Science. Let's see what it's called. The Science of Gratitude and How to Build a Gratitude Practice. So there's some problems with Huberman's Gratitude Science video. And today we're going to dissect this viral episode. While it promises revolutionary benefits, I'm going to expose at least 3 critical flaws. Number 1, the oversold claims. Number 2, buried practical advice in neuro jargon. Oh my God. Let me tell you something. In preparation for this talk today, I had to labor through that hour and 25-minute video of his. It was so painful, very painful experience. Because it was, any advice that he had was buried in so much neuro jargon. And the third flaw is the dangerous omission of gratitude's dark side. All while pushing sponsors under the guise of free education. It's interesting. It was so funny because Huberman made a big deal. He really took a few moments in the front end of his video to mention that what he's doing, his videos, is free education. And there's a contradiction there that I just want to expose. So he says the podcast is zero-cost consumer information, but in reality, about 20% of his video is devoted to sponsor ads. 20% of an hour and 25 minutes. That's incredible. That's incredible. With promo code STRAW, I'm not going to even mention these sponsors. I'm going to give them an extra plug. There were 4 or 5, at least 4 of them, 5 of them. So if he spends 20% of an hour and 25 minutes, that's an enormous amount of time on sponsors. But he says it's zero-cost consumer information. Think about it. What is the cost to you of having to sift through and watch this much sponsorship? There's an opportunity cost. You could be doing other things. You're being persuaded. You're being influenced. You didn't sign up for that. You probably guessed it would be ads, but he said zero cost. Well, those aren't YouTube ads. We're not talking about YouTube ads. We're talking about him promoting, plugging his sponsors. 20% of that. That's at least 20 minutes. Incredible, incredible. It was shocking. So, let's move on to his core argument, Andrew Huberman's core argument in this gratitude science video. So he argues that gratitude, when practiced in a specific science-backed way, especially through narrative and receiving thanks can cause significant, lasting positive changes in mental and physical health. He was very excited, exuberant about that in the superlatives that he used. He claims this is supported by neuroscience, brain circuit activation, serotonin increases, and studies showing benefits like reduced inflammation, improved well-being, and even increased longevity. Incredible. Sign me up. Just by gratitude, I get to live longer. It sounds too good to be true. Let's see. He insists that narrative-based and authentic gratitude practices are far more effective than simple gratitude lists. We're not going to argue about that one. So what about the studies that he cites? So Huberman references a variety of studies, neuroimaging, narrative-based experiments, physiological and behavioral research to support his claims. He highlights findings that gratitude activates specific brain regions, lowers inflammatory markers, and improves psychological resilience. However, these are often small studies or based on correlational evidence. First, are the studies robust? Number one, they have small effect sizes. Meta-analysis and controlled experiments show gratitude interventions have only modest effects. That's a key word there, modest effects. Comparable to other low-touch psychological tools. Then we have narrative and social forms. They may be slightly more effective than generic list making, but the difference is not dramatic. And we have correlation versus causation. Very, very important point here. Correlation versus causation. Many of the most impressive claims he had, like increased longevity or cognitive function, are based on correlational, not causal research. Meaning that the gratitude didn't cause the impressive claim. It was correlated with it. Very important. And then skepticism in the field. Much of the research is preliminary, sometimes based on small samples or animal studies. And often, sorry about that, and often fails to address possible downsides or cultural differences. In gratitude, I just had a fleeting thought about an animal being grateful or something. Gosh, animals don't do that, and neither did humans forever. Why? It's too much. That's why we have an important job to do here with getting to the bottom of this whole gratitude racket. There's a lot of problems inherent in that, and we're gonna talk about this later. And I promise you, I'm not gonna bury the important information with any kind of biological or neuro talk, and I'm certainly not gonna give you 20% or take 20% of your time watching my video on sponsorship ads. At least not for a very long time. All right. So much of the science he uses to support his claims just isn't very good. Most of the preliminary research that gets touted as cutting edge in wellness culture never ends up accounting to anything when it's subject to further scientific scrutiny. So is something fishy here? There are legitimate reasons to be skeptical of Huberman's sweeping claims. First, overstating the science. The consensus is that gratitude practices have small positive effects, not the huge impact that was sometimes implied. And then selective reporting. He focuses on the most promising studies and rarely addresses null results, cultural context, or possible negative effects, like toxic gratitude or gratitude in abusive relationships. Then there's early stage research. Many mechanisms he describes are based on early, sometimes unreplicated findings and should not be taken as settled science. And there's also commercial interest. Sponsorships and supplement recommendations blur the line between science communication and marketing. Let's move on to Huberman's claim versus reality check. So he claims gratitude has very large positive effects on cardiovascular health. I'm quoting here. Gratitude has very large positive effects on cardiovascular health, relationships, and resilience to trauma, comparable to pharmacology or intense exercise. That's what he said. Reality check. Small effect sizes. Meta-analysis show gratitude interventions have modest benefits, similar to other low-effect psychological tools, not potent medical interventions. Second, correlation is not causation. Longevity, cognition claims are based on correlational data, not proof that gratitude causes these outcomes. It was tough for me to get that word out. It's correlated. Ignored no results. No mention of studies showing no significant effects. Classic cherry picking, just cherry picking. Oh gosh. YouTube search results, unbelievable, unbelievable. This racket, you got a stranglehold on everything. Like, good luck, good luck. If you're trying to shed some truth on a topic, it's going to be very difficult for you to do so. That's what we're going to do here. With your help, with you liking, subscribing, commenting, you're going to help us get this video where it needs to be, at the top of that search result for gratitude, so that people can at least have something to compare against. Selective reporting on the dark side of gratitude. Let's talk about that for a minute. So Huberman rarely addresses no results, cultural context, or possible negative effects of gratitude. Like toxic gratitude we mentioned, or gratitude in abusive relationships. The toxic gratitude, there was some reports or studies, but let's see here. Moral violations. Gratitude can motivate lying, unethical behavior to protect benefactors. That was Zoo, 2020. Emotional suppression. Forced gratitude leads to toxic positivity, invalidating trauma. Like, for example, others have it worse. And then power imbalances. These are like three of the worst things about the dark side of gratitude. Ooh, these are terrible. Emotional suppression, forced gratitude, toxic positivity. Thinking about others always have it worse. I want to bring something to your attention here. Or a question. I want to ask you a question. I want to provoke some thinking. Do you think wealthy, affluent, aristocratic, high class, whatever you want to call it, you think people at the upper echelon in society practice gratitude? And do you think that if they should be observed practicing gratitude, would it be a pseudo-humility, an exercise in pseudo-humility? Do poor people or lower to middle income people practice more gratitude than upper income people? Is gratitude a salve, a pacifier for the masses, the poor, lower income people with problems and troubles, helpless, powerless people? These are questions for you to ask. Does the practice of gratitude lead to accepting unfair governing, unfair business practices, employment practices? These are questions to think about. And we'll get to those in the future. Power imbalances. Low status individuals may tolerate mistreatment to repay perceived debts. So there's an example. His genocide survivor story glorifies gratitude as salvation, but ignores how gratitude narratives can gaslight victims into accepting oppression. So there's some early stage research. Why skepticism is warranted. Couple of points here on this. Number one, many claims, few replications. Okay, most neuroscience on gratitude, brain circuit rewiring, serotonin increases, inflammation reduction, is based on early, sometimes unreplicated findings. For example, fMRI studies show brain regions active during gratitude, but these are preliminary and not fully understood. Also, small sample sizes and experimental limits. Many cited studies involve small groups or artificial lab settings, such as imagining oneself as a Holocaust survivor or playing economic games. These may not translate into real-world gratitude. The field lacks large-scale long-term studies. Then the issue of correlation versus causation. Dramatic claims about longevity or cognitive function are based on correlational research, not randomized control trials. Very important. Unclear mechanisms. While gratitude is associated with activation in some brain areas, how this leads to lasting behavioral or health changes remains speculative. Then we have the overstated impact. Even the best studies show only modest effects on well-being, similar to mindfulness or journaling. Narrative, social gratitude may be slightly more effective, but not game changers. And finally, the neglected downsides and cultural context. The field often ignores the negative effects such as toxic gratitude, the power imbalances, or the cultural differences in gratitude experiences. So these are buried practices and sponsor overload. That's what I got from the video. Buried practices and sponsor overload. It was the video length was crazy. 80-minute neurobiology trap. That's what it was. 80-minute neurobiology trap. Huberman spends over 45 minutes on neurobiology and sponsor segments before mentioning actionable steps about gratitude. Can you believe that? Incredible. Like just saying that, it's hard to believe. 45 minutes was spent on neurobiology and sponsor segments before he mentioned any actionable steps on gratitude. Just let that sink in for a minute. Viewers have to wade through 3 sponsor segments, complex neuroscience, and tangential psychology before reaching his main protocol, the gratitude practice. So the effective protocol, if it is effective, is buried at 1 hour and 18 minutes. Incredible, incredible. His recommended practice, revisiting a gratitude narrative 3 times a week, is presented in just 5 minutes after an hour of theory, more than an hour of theory. So is this prioritizing showmanship over accessibility? You decide. What will most viewers conclude, whether they watch that whole video or not? Even if they skip out after 10 minutes, 15 minutes, right? A lot of viewers are going to be skipping out. He had over 1 million views on that. So a lot of these viewers are skipping out early. But what are they going to conclude, regardless of how long they watch? So given the structure and the tone of the video, most viewers are likely to walk away with impression that gratitude, especially the narrative-based receiving practices that Huberman promotes, is a powerful science-backed tool for improving nearly every aspect of health and well-being. That's what they're going to walk away with, whether it's true or not. That's what they're walking away with. Presentation is persuasive, but it doesn't fully communicate the limitations, nuances, or ongoing debates in the scientific literature. So the bottom line is that Huberman's argument for gratitude is based on a mix of promising but still evolving science and persuasive storytelling. The studies he cites do show some benefits, especially for narrative-based or social gratitude practices, but the effects are generally small and not universally transformative. Also, the field is still young and skepticism is warranted, especially regarding claims of dramatic health or neurobiological impacts. And finally, most viewers will likely overestimate the power of gratitude practices based on the way the information is presented. So, if you're looking for a practice that is safe, brief, and may help your mood or relationships, narrative-based gratitude is a reasonable option. But the scientific evidence doesn't support the idea that it's a miracle intervention for everyone, and the hype should be taken with a grain of salt. So thanks for joining me today, and look out for my next installment, which there's a highly likelihood it's going to be about gratitude. We shall see. Please like and subscribe and comment. I'd like to hear from you. Thanks.